Hi, I'm Ralph Preston, and every Tuesday we have our Stroke Buddies Recovery and Science Zoom meeting. We bring to you different types of people, survivors, therapists, scientists, healthcare professionals, and the point is to supply you with some information that's valuable to your recovery. Today, back for the fourth time. Now I sound like a radio announcer or something. We have Genevieve Richardson, and Genevieve's a speech and language pathologist. She and I share a lot of the same philosophies on recovery and look at things the same way. And today we're going to talk a little bit about stroke stole it, take it back, speaking up, making your voice be heard, how to do that. So let's dive in.
Thank you, Ralph. Good morning, everybody. So let's start by sharing my screen. May I have screen control, sir?
Sure.
So we're talking about taking it back. So as Ralph said, I'm a speech pathologist. I've been doing this quite a long time, 30 years, as a matter of fact, coming up on 31 in a week. That is hard to believe. And what I wanted to talk about today is a theme. The theme is, how does the stroke survivor come out of being a stroke survivor to where you get to a place where stroke is a characteristic of you versus your entire identity. And it's a hard road. I haven't walked it myself, but I've walked it with so many survivors. My specialty is aphasia and thinking issues and all of those things together, because as each one of you know, the stroke not only impacts your body, but impacts your thinking. It impacts how you relate to others, how you perceive the world. Am I right? Oh, and I didn't say, I love interaction. If you guys want to put comments or questions in the chat, I'm going to ask questions as we go through this, because I want this to be interactive, because this is for you. This is not me lecturing. Ralph said teacher earlier, and I don't want it to be that way. I want to be here as a support, hopefully give you inspiration and give you some tools to help you take it back. So let's go with the slides. Let's see, one moment. Okay, here we go. Doing my slides a different way so you guys get to see the experiment of just sharing part of my screen. Everybody's picture moved. And Ralph and Gary, as comments, questions come in, feel free to interrupt. Everybody see my slides? Are we good?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you, Rick. I appreciate the thumbs up. And you know what? I love that too, everybody, because I'm here doing this for you and I want you to be a part of it. All right. So take it back. A survivor's guide to reclaiming strength, dignity, and confidence after stroke. And this isn't just about speaking again. It's about getting back to your life. If we take Ralph as an example, you all know Ralph, you've been watching him and everything that he's been doing in his recovery. He wasn't willing to sit back and wait for recovery. He actively pursued it. He came home in a wheelchair, and with consistent practice and challenging himself and using household items, he rebuilt his mobility. And that's inspiring. So to get through stroke, part of it is finding a purpose. And we're going to talk about that more. I see some faces in this crowd who have done this. They figured out a way. And I want to hear their stories too, because I think it's an inspiration. One of my favorite things to do, I do have a podcast, and I love interviewing survivors who have figured out what to do, what to focus on. Whether it's working on puzzles at home, whether it's starting a YouTube channel, whether it's recording videos and sharing it with the stroke community. Everybody has found a purpose, and it doesn't have to be a stroke related purpose. It just needs to be a purpose. It's something to get out of bed for. And I find that in my practice working with survivors, that takes a lot of encouragement. It takes a lot of processing through grief and coping and rebuilding identity and having people that support you. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So what I've learned about recovery, advocacy, and finding purpose after stroke, right there, that is the key. Purpose. Phil, my friend.
Yes.
You have done this. You have found a way to not only advocate for yourself, but for others. Can you tell real quick how you do that?
Okay, well, my name is Philip Oxendine, and what I did, I have my own podcast as for YouTube, and what I do, I talk about other people's stories. And there's people in there right now. One name is I can see him his name right now. But what I did, I found out that everyone has a story to tell. So what I did, I wanted to tell their stories too and put it on their page too. So that's what I did.
Love it. And Ralph, what would you say is the trick or the strategy or the focus of a survivor, and how do you figure out that purpose and that way forward?
Tough question, but I'll give it a shot. Well, purpose is different for different people. I suggest if people are lost in terms of finding a new purpose, that they do things like try and adapt their old hobbies to their new physical capabilities. If that's not possible, then find new hobbies, get engaged in community, however you can do that, clubs, church, whatever. And lastly, if you're lost, another good opportunity is for finding purposes volunteering. If you were well, I know somebody who was in dog rescue, and she can't move the dogs around anymore. But I suggested volunteering at the dog rescue office. So there's always something you can do. And when you volunteer, you always meet good people. People who volunteer usually are always empathetic and have big hearts. So you'll meet good people that way. I think it's really important to find purpose, because without purpose, you don't have any hopes or dreams. And therefore, you don't make any plans. And if you're not hoping and dreaming and planning, I don't think you're moving forward. And of course, this isn't a whole other subject, about a 10-hour subject. All this takes a certain level of acceptance about what's happened to you. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox now.
Thank you, Ralph. That was perfect. So why is speaking up so hard? Fear of judgment, right? Of the people that you know and the people that you don't know. The fear of going out in public when your body has changed, right? Or you have new equipment that is part of your daily ability to get around. Perhaps you have issues with thinking and finding your words, or being able to get all your thoughts out like you wanted to do. Sometimes it's lack of confidence. And it's hard, right? You got struck down with a stroke. Everything you knew before has now changed. And it's about rebuilding after that. And then we also know that overwhelming fatigue can be a real part of recovery. And there could be other reasons why speaking up is so hard. And when I mean speaking up, I don't just mean getting your words out. It's about voicing an opinion. It's about asking for what you need. If you're going into a store and you're walking with a cane and you're struggling with the door and somebody doesn't, necessarily stop to help you, do you have the words or the willingness to ask for somebody to hold the door for you? Whatever that is, it's speaking up, and that is scary. So we have hidden barriers, whether it's your individual barriers, your fatigue, your speech changes, maybe memory, interpersonal. Maybe you don't like others speaking for you, and so you close yourself off and don't allow that to happen. Or you have impatience, or there's misunderstanding. Policy, there's not a lot of protections. The world is not stroke and aphasia friendly. Yes, there might be some handicap accessibility, if you're in a wheelchair or those kinds of things, but often those are afterthoughts. One of my clients 2 years ago, they went to a national park. Trying to remember which one it was. I want to say it was in the Carolinas somewhere, but I don't exactly remember. But he is wheelchair bound and he cannot speak. His wife does all of that. He communicates remarkably well, even though he doesn't have words. He can vocalize, and you can tell from his facial expression, his mood, what he wants, what he needs, a lot of those things. Well, this wheelchair ramp was put in, and the angle was so steep that his wife couldn't push him up it. It was added in after the fact. There was this huge platform. It was like a patio, and it was just packed with tables and chairs. There wasn't anybody there, but there wasn't any room for, once he did get up that ramp, to navigate around, and it just wasn't safe for him. Or when they also traveled and the hotel room said they were handicap accessible, but on the wrong side, like the two rooms they had at the hotel were on the wrong side for the weakness he had on his body, right? He needed it on the other side so he could use his left arm and his left leg. And it was a miserable trip. So there's policies and physical barriers, right? And then community, lack of accessible spaces, limited awareness, right? I know I'm preaching to the choir because you're all here and you're living it every day. So how does one become a survivor to being an advocate? Where this can be any way you want to think of being an advocate for yourself. I would love to hear from anybody who's willing to unmute and speak to the group. What is something you've done to advocate for yourself? Was it, when you ordered at a restaurant and you asked for iced tea and they brought you sweet tea, you hate sweet tea? Did you speak up? Anybody want to volunteer?
Rick?
I want to sorry.
If you come to it, Rick, please unmute and, jump back on in, okay?
Yeah.
What you have to say is important. We want to hear it. Anybody else want to share? How have you spoken up for yourself? Go ahead, Ralph.
I don't want to monopolize it, but I got a couple things that I did. Um, well, two things. I was somebody who never accepted anybody's help. I didn't need anybody's help. And suddenly I did, and I found that it was difficult for me at first to accept the help, but I ran it through my little brain, and I like to help people. And I thought to myself, you know, if everybody had your attitude, you couldn't help anybody, and how would that make you feel? So you got people who are offering, and if you turn them down or don't accept their help, then you're denying them the opportunity to be kind and help you. And besides, you need the help. So that's how I got over that. And I'm a lot more accepting of people helping me, even though I don't need it at this point. One other way I advocated for myself was I found that some people, particularly my ex-wife, would try and do stuff for me. And, you know, that's fine if people want to help, but if you don't want their help, it's not fine. So I spoke up and said to several people, I appreciate your help. Always important to say that first. I appreciate your help. My doing these things is part of my getting better. If I need your help, I will speak up and ask for it. And that was a big game changer. I've seen, I've seen people just care partners particularly smother their survivor by doing everything for them, and the survivor doesn't necessarily know to speak up. Anyway, so those are my two things and an observation about other dyads, other care partners, survivors.
I want to piggyback on what you said, Mike. I see your hand. I definitely will have you go next. You said something right there, Ralph, about how care partners, spouses jump in to help. And I think most folks that are here on this call are probably survivors. But I'd like to give you the perspective of a care partner and what they say. Yeah, from their perspective, they're terrified. They're terrified that you had a stroke. They're terrified that you could have another stroke. They're terrified you're going to fall and hurt yourself or, you know, something else. So they over help, right? But it often, you know, we don't paint with too broad of a brush here, but they have to go through their own coping, grieving process because the stroke happened to you, but for them, it also happened to them, right? Their life changed. And I just really want to give that perspective because it's when you're working on your recovery, it's harder to see outside of yourself and perceive what other people might be perceiving regarding you. Does that make sense? I'd really love other people to jump in on this after Mike, though, told him he'd go next. But I wanted to give you some information about care partners because care partners, spouses, significant others, adult children, even little kids, you know, grandkids, they want to help. They want you to be better. They want you to live life. They may not say it that way, but their actions show that. And go ahead, Ralph.
They often don't know what to do, and if you can provide them with some guidance, that's a really important part of speaking up, recognizing, thanking them, and letting them know what it is that they can do.
Advocacy, self-advocacy, advocating for yourself starts small. I think of it as circles that get bigger. You have to start with the people that are closest to you, that smallest circle. Start with the people in your house. Then your circle gets a little bit bigger. Start advocating with them. And you have to do this very purposefully. And if you need help with this, Ralph and his community, he's got a group for that. Reach out to me. You don't have to do this alone. All right, Mike, I put you off for too long. Are you still there?
Yeah. Um, so, you know, I found that the one thing I found was to get out and find out how to help advocate for aphasia. Um, I became an aphasia ambassador through the National Aphasia Association. Um, I've learned so many things. I've learned so many great tips and tricks. I just need to get out there. And I found the new friends, the new people that do this. And the one thing you find when you have this is you lose all the people you used to think you were close to. But then everybody needs to realize all the people that you become friends with at that moment. And, I want to, like Phil, who you've talked to a few times, we have become very good friends.
Yeah, you're fine.
And, well, maybe, we may be, yeah, let's not talk about that, Phil. But Phil and I being ambassadors is how we kind of get the word out there. And there's there's so much that you can do. And what I did is I stopped being the victim and I started being the reason.
I love that.
So it's how I perceived how I was dealing with life every day. And I want to say something about your caregivers. My wife made the observation that you did where people don't realize what they're going through every day. Every day.
Yeah.
She sat in a hospital for 14 days while they said they didn't know if I was going to wake up from whatever I was in. It's us going through this, not just me.
Yeah.
And it's us. Everybody on this call going through this, not just me. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you so much, Mike.
My favorite line from the movie Aphasia, Hope is a four-letter word, is what happens to one happens to two. And it really could be extended beyond two to,
Everybody.
yeah, everybody around the survivor.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's a great
It's
that's a
simple.
great say.
It simplifies it. I like things that are simple.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mike. Damont.
Yes, yes. The way I look at this whole situation, recovery is a process, and we have to look at this as a support system. We have these platforms and everything, and we have to look at how can we provide hope for others. You know, recovery, like I said, sometimes it takes a long period of time. I'm coming up to my 30th year in August of my setback. I think we start labeling stuff in our lives because, I suffered a stroke. We have to look at our mental part of it that says I overcame a stroke. That's how we have to regain our power back, you know, uh, and it took me a while. like I said, 30 years, it's coming up in 30 years. And this happened to me when I was 23 years old. And this is like when we have a support system with different type of groups that we can empower each other. So this is the thing of recovery is not by yourself. This is a team approach, and we need that interaction with each other every day, not just a once a month situation. Because when I was going through my recovery rehab process, it was like most stroke groups was once a month. You know, Technology has changed a lot now since we have Zoom and everything. So now we have groups that we can interact with each other. And just like what Mike was saying about, we have a community now to help other people. And that's where I look at what Ralph was talking about with hope. What does hope stands for? People. It's helping other people every day, not just me, what I can do and stuff like that. As a community, we work together better as a team in a community, other than just a individual process. Yes, we need to work on our own internal self, but at the end of the day, I always have a support system like it. The other day, I had to call on Ralph to ask a couple questions or or certain things I didn't know about certain things. So, as a community, we have to reach out to each other and have to get to the point where let's help each other. Just like you, Genevieve, for 30 years of being a speech pathologist, because you want to help people. And that's what life is about, not just what I can do or stuff like that. I think everybody's life has been turned upside down with this, and it's like we're trying to figure this stuff out and how to handle this thing and this thing called life as an overcomer. So if we get to the point where we can help other people, I think this will be an easier process for people other than just sitting there like wallowing in their own misery, which is a lot of people do. They're isolated.
Yeah.
How
I've
can we
found,
get out? Yeah.
like Mike and Phil, I found that I'm not here to toot my own horn, but like Mike
Mhm.
and Phil, I found that helping people
Mhm.
is real valuable in terms of
Yeah.
makes you feel good, helps build community. You have no idea who you'll meet and what information you'll gain,
Absolutely.
and you're doing a little good at the same time. I think most stroke survivors would somehow like to make it easier on the next person, so
Mhm.
you can always get involved in. Yeah, you don't have to start your own group, you don't have to start your own YouTube channel, but there are always things that you can do to help the stroke community.
Absolutely.
And
Participation in groups,
it's
participation.
for practice for everybody. It's for practice for everybody.
Right.
Love it. So let's talk about 4 phases of reclaiming your voice. And again, your voice is you speaking up for you. It's not literally your voice, but it could be. Recognize what you need. The first thing, if you're not advocating for yourself, you need to start recognizing in your day-to-day where is an opportunity to speak up. Maybe you don't want tuna casserole again for dinner, 3 nights in a row, right? You can still be grateful for it, but say, can we have something different? That is speaking up, right? That is a very simple, to the heart of it. Again, going out of the house or getting on, joining one of the stroke buddies groups and saying, hey, I need a buddy. I'm looking for somebody that's in my time zone. I think about, finding people in time zones because that's easier to coordinate, right? When you're going to meet up online. Sometimes you need a buddy to just connect with another person that can understand what you're going through. I see heads nodding and I love this. And then Plan for success. Part of it is you might have to practice your words. You'll recognize that you don't want tuna casserole again, so you might need to practice. How would you say that in a way that advocates for yourself, doesn't hurt the other person, if possible? Uh-oh. What's that mean, Ralph? Not sure what that means.
Just say no to tuna casserole always.
Honey, I love you, but no more tuna casserole.
Right.
Right? You got to find your words.
I ate way too much of it growing up.
Yep.
I don't ever want to see it again.
Yeah. Oh, I can't eat canned tuna because that's all I got as a kid. I had to learn how to cook for myself as a kid just to survive. Because, yeah, that or
I
tuna?
don't eat tuna fish sandwiches either.
No.
In fairness to my mom, she had four boys, four
Oh.
hungry boys. So
Yep. Mass quantities. So you want to recognize a situation where you can start speaking up. Maybe you're good about speaking up about tuna casserole, but you're not good about speaking up for what you need when you're at the grocery store. Or how about at the doctor's office when the nurse is rushing you, or the doctor isn't stopping to, not slowing down their speech enough for you to really understand what they're explaining to you, or they tell you, lightning fast about a new medication they want to put you on, and you're like, no. You're like, I don't want another medication. Why do I need it? Right? And it's those moments of speaking up. Well, let's take the doctor's office, for example. Depending on what your situation is, you can prepare in advance. This is about speaking up in small moments. I'm looking at number 3 here, speaking in small moments. If you know what it's going to be like at the doctor's office, get some notes put together. If you can't do it, get someone to help you do it. Dictate into your phone if you need to. That's absolutely, we are in this day and age of technology where most everybody has a personal assistant right here with them. And if you don't know how to use it, we can do some training about it, or we can make a video, Ralph, whatever. If you don't know how to use your phone to help advocate for yourself, let's help you figure that out, because there's lots of different ways to do it. Yes, sir.
The doctors are recording you whenever you go to the doctor these days. Most are, and most of them don't mind if you record them. So you can take, if you don't have a care partner, you have trouble remembering what they say, you don't understand everything, and they don't take the time to explain it to you, and you need to get it explained later. If you make a recording, just an audio recording, then you've got like a resource.
Absolutely, 100%, Ralph. I'm really glad you said that. But prepare in advance. You know what your doctor's going to ask you, right? He's going to ask about how you're feeling. Hopefully he asks, right? They're busy. How are you feeling? How are the meds? Any complaints, any issues, you need to tell them. Get it documented, dictate it into your phone, whatever it is you need to do, but think ahead, plan for it. And then, when you come away from that doctor's office and you do have that recording like Ralph was just talking about, where you can go back and listen to it at your pace, count that as a win. Really stop to acknowledge it, because those wins are necessary to acknowledge so that you can keep moving forward. And if something didn't work out quite as well as you wanted it to, reflect on it and figure out what you can do the next time. So let's talk about what helps and what hurts. We already know the hurts, right? We've kind of gone over this already, but being dismissed or ignored, it's horrible. And I can't stand seeing it. So that's why I want you all to have your voice. Overwhelming fatigue makes it really hard some days to get through it. Maybe a lack of support system. You may not have a family that you can lean on, or friends, but you have an internet community. Everybody here on this call is and can be your community. You just have to reach out. You have to take that first step. Others speaking over you.
No.
Oh, the worst. The one thing I've been doing for the last 3 years, especially when it comes to the holidays, I have lots of training that I do, not only with the clients I work with in my practice, but on my podcast, I have these episodes about how do you set the holidays up for success? How do you speak up for yourself? How do you become included, even though your traditions may not be working the way they used to because of your stroke, whether it's speech or your physicalness or, whatever those changes are? How do you advocate for yourself? And one of them is saying, I got it. Let me say it, right? Or however it is you need to advocate for yourself. Speaking up. Don't let others speak over you. And it's going to be a little shocking to them the first time you do this. But so what? That is a win. That is something you can do. I'm sure each of you have examples you can share about how you've done this. The first time you did it is probably a little shocking, right? Feeling rushed. Like, hurry up. Can't you walk any faster? Or can't you get your words out? People are rude. Again, I'm preaching to the choir here. You guys experience it all the time. So what helps? What can you do to help yourself? Preparation, just like I was talking about the holidays. I have all sorts of tips and strategies for how you prepare for the holidays so that you can be included and advocate for yourself. Encouragement from others, getting an ally. I've talked about with my clients about having an aphasia buddy. I'm just going to use the holidays. Let's say it's Thanksgiving, just for a nice concrete example. Maybe it's not your spouse or significant other that's your buddy. Maybe it's your cousin, and you guys work it out ahead of time how your cousin can support you at the holiday, whether it's, getting from room to room or playing games or passing food at the table, whatever it is. Getting encouragement from others and support from others is so important. Practicing in safe settings, right? You practice things with those that you're comfortable with, and then you expand that circle. Like you work at home and then you work at the doctor's office, right? Advocating for yourself. Use assistive devices. Your phone is your friend. That is an assistive device. Notes in your pocket, carrying a stroke card or an aphasia card. Here in Texas, you can apply to get a communication impairment designation on your driver's license. And what that does is it's actually literally, I think that's the word they use, communication impairment. So if you have aphasia, you can apply for this. It's free. They'll just print you a new driver's license. And that helps advocate for yourself. Like if you were to get pulled over or if you're out in public, you could show that card or your stroke card or your aphasia card. Yes, sir, Ralph.
Dr. Tom Broussard in Aphasia Nation has a looks about the size of a license plate, a little smaller, goes on your sunscreen visor on your car, and you can just pull it right out and hand it to anybody.
Wonderful.
Because oftentimes, if you get stopped, it's like the police, and you don't want them to think you're drunk or something's wrong.
Right.
I believe it's free.
Wonderful. I will have to find that resource. One of my friends, Matt, he had a traumatic brain injury, and he got back most of his physical capabilities, but his speech sounds like he's drunk. He has dysarthria is the technical term, but his speech is slurred. And he would go to lunch. He's in California. He'd go to lunch at the beach with friends, and he literally had patrons call the police because he was going to go get in his car and drive away. He never had a drop of alcohol. He just sounded like he was drunk, but they were afraid of him being drunk, getting in his car and, hurting somebody or himself. And he did not have anything on his person to prove that, this is a legitimate medical condition and no, I didn't have any alcohol. It was quite a fiasco for him that day. Well, since then, of course, he's learned to carry that card that explained it. And then last thing on what helps, patient communication partners. In this day and age, right? We are all in a rush. We are always running. We don't stop to make eye contact and really be present when we're having a conversation. But when you have speech and language changes, thinking changes after a stroke, we need our communication partners to be there, to slow down, to pause, and be patient with us. And be patient with yourself too. Any comments on that? Anybody have a story you want to share or any other comments? Ooh, I'm looking at, if somebody's gonna come off mute. How is it easiest? So Julie typed in the comments, how is it easiest for someone in recovery from a stroke to make a recording? I love the dictation button on the phone. Something we do a lot in therapy is empowering my clients to use that dictation button in text messages. Use it in the notes app. If you want to make notes to take to your doctor's office, use that button. And then you can always edit the text. Of course, if you have aphasia, there may be other complications with it. But what you got there? Yes, there's Ralph's voice recordings, voice memos, text messages, notes app, all of those things. Autumn says, it's scary to speak loud enough for people to hear me because it triggers the aphasia, right? Sometimes when you have to make that extra physical effort to get your voice out, to be heard in a noisy environment, it can make it harder. And if you trigger any kind of an emotional reaction in yourself, it makes everything harder to find the words, to put your words together. So where are you now? What is one, and here's really my challenge for each of you. What's one thing you want to say, but haven't? I really want this to be a takeaway for you because I want you to feel empowered. I want you to have hope, and I want you to have your voice and speak up for yourself. So for each one of you, what is one situation you've held back? You didn't speak up, but you wish you had. I'm sure there's many. Can I get someone to raise their hand, come off mute, share with others? What is one thing you wish you had said but didn't? I'm gonna pull out my romper room mirror and start calling on people. Can I get some volunteers? All right, Phil, give me one example. You speak up pretty well for yourself, but you didn't always.
No, in the beginning, me and my mom, live in Dayton, Ohio, right? In the beginning, I would sit there, and every time I was doing something to my mom, I was saying, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." And I found out that the fact is, my mom was there to help me, right? But we didn't talk in a long time, so I'm sitting there in a room. It's me and my mom, and we had to talk, and it is a long time to remember. My mom was there to help me, and then I found out the fact that we're the same person. We're the same person, and then when I found out in my mind, it was up in my mind to understand that I had to get better to understand my mom was there to help me. So after that, I realized that mom was there to help me too, and she's just crazy as I am. So now we talk all the time now. But I found out that because my mom was going to the same things I was going to, because I'm a she I have a stroke too. But in the same way, like she a lot of times she wouldn't want me to do anything. She was always helping me to do stuff. And eventually it was like, listen, we just stopped doing this stuff. Like I'm doing better and I'm understanding what I'm trying to say. And also that now I have to do stuff on my own. Now my mom's doing all this stuff on my own now. So like now it's like, oh, go yourself. I'm like, okay. Like so now I can't get her to now I can't do anything. She'll do it myself now. It's like it sucks, but it's better now. So
Mhm.
Thank you, Phil. Rick.
Hey, Rick, you gotta unmute yourself. You had a bunch of background noise and I muted you.
Okay. Okay. Um, uh, I want to talk, but I no. Uh, uh, um, 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 treats, r- friends, no. Uh, sorry.
So, Rick, you said you want to talk,
Yes.
but friends,
No. Um,
you want to,
yeah.
oh, you said church.
Yes.
Nicely done. Hey, Rick, kudos to you. You typed it in the chat. You couldn't get out your word, but you typed it in the chat.
can I
So
tell you
let's
something real
call
quick?
that a win, sir.
And tell Rick, I can't type at all. I want Rick to know that I can't type at all. And you can do that.
We got
Yep.
So it says everyone's different. You did something I can't do it at all right now.
Bruce.
Yes, I joined late. I'm sorry I was out with my wife doing some errands. But in terms of aphasia, I just thought I would mention that there is a fairly recent paper that was conducted in Finland, which suggests a way that people might be able to improve their ability to talk after a stroke. I think a couple of years ago I sent a copy of it to Ralph. He may not recall.
Oh no, I recall. I actually mentioned it to Genevieve a week or so ago.
But the idea is this was conducted in people who had just had a stroke for the first time, and the experiment was started a week or two after their stroke. They were randomly divided into three different groups. One group was in the vocal music listening group, second group, instrumental music listening group, third group, listening to books on tape. And basically, they listened to those things. For the vocal music, they got to choose the genre that they liked, and they listened to people singing for 2 hours a day. And I think it was for 2 months. I don't recall. I haven't read the paper in a while. And for instrumental music, they listened again 2 hours a day, and for books on tape, 2 hours a day. Again, for 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
There was then, I'm going to say, a month off, and then they were retested for their ability to talk, and they were also given fMRI images of their left frontal lobe. So what they found was the group that listened to vocal music spoke better than people in the other two groups and had stronger axonal connections in the left frontal cortex at the follow-up test. Now, I live in Appleton, Wisconsin, and there's a local group of hospitals that every year have a stroke appreciation day, uh, usually in early October. And a couple of years ago, I mentioned this paper to one person up there who'd had a stroke and really had problems talking. And then at the stroke appreciation group meeting last year, she came up to me and thanked me so much for telling her about that, that it really, really helped her to talk.
Love that. Bruce, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We'll let Julie go in just a sec. Genevieve, apologies, it wasn't you. I talked to you about it because we've been talking so much. I made that mistake. It was Allie Chandler last week when we were talking about neurologic music therapy. I got it wrong. I keep wanting to say it was Norway instead of Finland. I think I finally locked Finland into my little brain. And the link is underneath that video. I can share it with you, Genevieve. I'll make a note to do so.
Wonderful. Thank you. Julie, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I had to get the audio. So my question about sort of tools to use and what suggestions are most helpful had to do with exactly what Phil said. Phil, when you said, I can't type at all, I was wondering when the suggestions were made previously to take recordings or voice memos, like when you're in the doctor's office or something like that, use your phone. So I was wondering, is it possible that having a stroke can impair your ability to do that? You like physically can't do that. And so that those tools are not helpful to you. That's why I was asking that question.
I see what you're saying. So if I understood your comment, Julie, you were asking about like activating the dictation or texting itself or, pushing the buttons on the phone. Is that what you mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sort of asking a bigger question, which is whether, like Phil, for you, whether it gets in the way of you using the tools that would otherwise be helpful, or if you have a different way to activate those tools.
For me, no, because my mom, she was so good to help me get better.
Yeah.
That I just practice. That's the only way around for me to practice. But I have tools. I have my phone. I also use my computer, and it types everything. So a lot of times I'll do a runaround. Let's say I'm in a video right now. I'll stop what you're doing and I'll type what I want to say on my phone and put it back on my computer and Zoom. So you got to do what's best for you. I mean, it's different. But I'm lucky because my mom is here to help me all the time.
So you can type. I thought you said earlier you can't type at all, and I didn't
I'm getting
know.
better. I'm getting better.
Oh, okay. Because I mean, you could always type with your unaffected hand, one finger at a time. It's
Yeah, but
terribly
but
slow.
yes, it's slow. But right, say I'm in Zoom right now, right? When I do this, I can stop what you're doing and talk at the same time, and I put on my phone when I want to say I'll use my phone on my phone and type what I want to say real quick, and I'll put it on my computer, and then I'll put it in my chat.
Julie, to kind of add on a little bit to your question, so a lot of stroke survivors, the hand is probably the most difficult thing to get back. So there are a lot of people out there who are essentially one-handed. So it takes, you might have to set the phone down on something rather than hold it and touch it with your other hand in order to operate it. So you have to learn how to adapt. And I think
Can I interrupt? So it's not easy to do, but have you ever accidentally pressed that button on your phone that opens a microphone? That button can be changed to work with certain apps like voice recorders and stuff like that. So you can change that button to work with whatever other app that you're wanting to go through, but again, it's possible, but it's not simple to do. You would need help.
And Julie, one other thing that I think is acceptance, believe it or not, is going to play a role here because, well, for example, in one of the groups, somebody was talking about, it was suggested they make a video, and of course I said, I can't make a video, I've only got one hand. So I actually took my phone and tied my hand behind my back and made a video with one hand while I talked about it and posted it in the group. It annoyed her, but other people got, the message that, it is possible. And so she had a stinky attitude, and I don't normally say that about people. I actually had to kick her out of half a dozen groups about 3 times because she'd pick on other people, but we're not here to talk about that. But attitude can play a big thing. I guess kind of like what Genevieve was talking about. It's important to sort of take that first step in lots of areas, and that's a big step. Saying I can, or using I can't yet, but I'll figure out how to do it until I can.
That's really helpful. Thank you.
Damont?
Yeah. Well, I was just talking about like we have so many different tools and we have to actually use those tools that make sure everyone is comfortable with those tools. I've just came up with certain things I was not comfortable with, but the more we use it and apply it, like I am a huge component of audiobooks now and listening to different audiobooks. So certain people, everybody was so used to reading books and everything. So when we go through these transitions in our life, we have to learn how to like the adaptation process, and everybody's, recovery is going to be different. And how do we, navigate through certain things to help, our individual um, tools or whatever to help other people. So I'm just looking at, with me personally, it's the process of evolving, just like for me, like I said, it's been 30 years and I'm still learning how to adapt to certain things. Like I said, audiobooks for me is awesome. So I came to the conclusion, just learn how to keep it simple. And for many, many years, I beat myself up on certain things. Why? Now, sitting back after this long period of time, I'm like, but I had to learn. And I think what we have to do, our society is based on microwave, but you think you're gonna be recovery in like 2, 3 years and stuff. This is a lifelong transition. So we have to understand the process of things. So, and keep hope in there, because without hope or no drive or something, people just think it's going to happen overnight. This, like I said, we have these platforms. You can see different stages and faces of individuals.
I think
Maybe some people, yeah,
I think the
go ahead.
most important thing you can do is tell yourself, I'm not going to let this get the best of me. I'm
Yeah,
going to figure
absolutely.
it out. Maybe I can't do it the way I used to do, but
Mhm.
I'll figure out a way to get what I need.
Absolutely.
Love
Absolutely.
it.
Just, we got to figure it out, yeah,
And
yeah,
practice those wins, right? You have
yeah.
to acknowledge, and it's hard.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah,
It is hard.
absolutely.
So we'll wind up our time today. I want to share a quick story about one of my clients who really just had a breakthrough. He had this thought in his mind. He just passed 1 year, and he was thinking that that was it. Based on what he had heard in the hospital, 1 year, you're done. That's, go live, go figure it out. And it was something simple like the plumber that came to his house was just there over the weekend. And the plumber had been there 10 months earlier. So 2 months, he had just been home from the hospital, and the plumber said to him, man, you are looking so much better, and look at how you're moving around, and look at how you're talking. And it took that simple comment from a man he didn't even know that helped shift his mindset that, okay, I can keep going. Because he's always been a glass half empty guy. That's just his personality. He doesn't look at as, oh, I got a half a glass of water, Yay. But that made a shift for him. And, you know, it was a big thing that we celebrated yesterday when we were talking, because that's him learning that there is more to life than stroke. And he's going to figure it out. So that's it for my presentation. I want to thank each of you for being here today. I hope you got some inspiration, some hope, and I will leave you with this. Ralph has built an amazing community with Stroke Buddies. There's a group for every interest on there to help support Ralph and the things that he does. And the folks that work behind the scenes, Gary and Ralph were so generous to have me back on today. And we were working, and then my team here and Autumn, to bring this presentation to you, to really try and inspire and give hope. And if we can support you, please let us know, but support Ralph by watching his YouTube channel. The more videos you watch, the more other people that stumble across one of those videos will get even more videos. Same thing with Phil, same thing with my channel. YouTube, you hear this word all the time, algorithm this, algorithm that, right? Like it's like Zoom has become vocabulary. Algorithm, everybody who's, never said that word before, people are saying it now. But it's real and it's true. And it's how each of us get our messages out to the world. The more you watch and listen, you'll get something out of it. Share it, encourage somebody else, and help us put stroke, I want to say in the rear view mirror, right? But let's not have stroke be your whole identity. Let's get you living and moving forward. And however we can support you, please reach out. Thank you all for being here. Great to see your smiling faces, and appreciate the participation today.
Thank you for taking time to put your presentation together and present to us.
You're very welcome. And if you guys don't have the PDF that goes with this, it's called Take It Back. We will send it out to you via email, right, Ralph?
Yeah, or also I'm going to put it, well, it's in the email everybody got. Well, it's in the post that they found it. It was in the email we sent out if you got here through our email.
I have a new email with it.
More importantly, I'm going to put it in the description underneath the video.
Good.
For those who are not here today watching this in YouTube land. Look under the description, and I will put the link to, well, I may as well go ahead and put the link to the Finland study.
Absolutely. Great idea.
Along with the link to the guide. And of course, I'll put Genevieve's contact information in case you would like to reach out to her and find out more about what she does and how she might be able to help you. So,
and one more thing, Ralph, I know you're closing. I also support care partners.
yes.
So if your care partner is feeling overwhelmed, exhausted, because they never were trained to be a care partner, right? They were thrown into this role. If I absolutely can support them. So please feel free to get in contact. I'm here for you. I'm here for them. And let's make this better.
And I'm still planning on having that caregiver forum with 4 dyads. And I'm also planning on having a meeting with you and promoting your book on caregiving when it comes out.
Woohoo! It's actually out.
Oh, it is. Well,
It
let's
is.
talk.
It is. It's called How to Help. And it's a guide for care partners to, just one way to start learning how to be a care partner, to get control over your daily tasks and build your support network so that you can, so that they can support you, the survivor.
Send it to me and I'll put it in the description
Awesome.
along with Finland and the guide.
All right. See, look at all these resources coming. Everybody have a lovely day.
Thank you, thank you,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Do all you can with what you have, in the time you have, in the place you are. Do all you can. Do all you can.